This is Romeo and Juliet, Act 5, Scene 3. In the final scene of Romeo and Juliet, we start out with Paris going to pay his respects to Juliet. So we're at the Capulet tomb where Juliet's body is inside.
Give me thy torch, boy. Hence and stand aloof. Yet put it out, for I would not be seen.
Yes, my lord.
Under yon yew trees lay thee all along, holding thy ear close to the hollow ground. So shall no foot upon the churchyard tread, being loose and firm with digging up of graves, but thou shalt hear it. Whistle then to me a signal that thou hearest something approach. Give me those flowers. Do as I bid thee, go.
Oh, I am almost afraid to stand alone here in the churchyard. Yet I will venture.
Sweet flower, with flowers thy bridal bed I strew. Oh, woe! Thy canopy is dust and stones, which with sweet water nightly I will dew, or, wanting that, with tears distilled by moans. The obsequies that I for thee will keep nightly shall be to strew thy grave and weep. The boy gives warning. Something doth approach. What cursed foot wanders this way tonight to cross my obsequies and true love's right? What with a torch? Muffle me, night, a while.
So Paris has gone to the Capulet tomb in the graveyard to mourn over Juliet. And he tells his page, go stand watch, and if somebody comes, whistle to give me sound that somebody is approaching. And so he's over there, and he's talking about how I'm going to lay these flowers on your grave, and I will water them every night, and basically just like showing that he really did care about Juliet and that he's a good guy. Then he hears a whistle, meaning that someone is approaching, and that someone is Romeo and Balthazar.
Give me that mat and the wrenching iron. Hold, take this letter. Early in the morning, see thou deliver it to my lord and father.
Yes, sir.
Give me the light. Upon thy life I charge thee, whate'er thou hearest or seest, stand all aloof, and do not interrupt me in my course. Why I descend into this bed of death is partly to behold my lady's face, but chiefly to take thence from her dead finger a precious ring, a ring that I must use in dear employment. Therefore hence, be gone. But if thou, jealous, dost return to pry in what I farther shall intend to do, by heaven I will tear thee joint by joint, and strew this hungry churchyard with thy limbs. The time and my intents are savage wild, more fierce and more inexorable far than empty tigers or the roaring sea.
I will be gone, sir, and not trouble you.
So shalt thou show me friendship. Take thou that. Live, and be prosperous, and farewell, good fellow.
For all the same, I'll hide me hereabout. His looks I fear, and his intents I doubt.
So Romeo and Balthazar approach, and Romeo tells Balthazar, here's a letter. Please take this to my father and give it to him in the morning. And then he says, now you need to leave. And he tells Balthazar that he's there because he needs to pay his respects to Juliet, and then he also needs to get a ring off of her finger. So this is a lie. He's going there to kill himself. But he tells Balthazar, if you don't leave or if you come back, I will kill you. I'll tear you apart limb for limb. So like, get out of here. And Balthazar says, okay, I'll go. And then Romeo gives him a bunch of money. So Romeo has given the apothecary a lot of money, and now he's given Balthazar a bunch of money and saying, go, have a good life. Thank you. And Balthazar pretends to leave, but then he says to himself, despite what I said, I think I'll stick around. I'm frightened by this look upon his face, and I doubt his intentions. So Balthazar doesn't leave. He thinks that Romeo is probably up to something other than what he said.
Thou detestable Moor, thou womb of death, gorged with the dearest morsel of the earth. Thus I enforce thy rotten jaws to open, and in despite I'll cram thee with more food.
This is that banished haughty Montague that murdered my love's cousin, with which grief it is supposed the fair creature died, and here is come to do some villainous shame to the dead bodies. I will apprehend him. Stop thy unhallowed toil, vile Montague. Can vengeance be pursued further than death? Condemned villain, I do apprehend thee. Obey me, and go with me, for thou must die.
I must indeed, and therefore came I hither. Good gentle youth, tempt not a desperate man. Fly hence and leave me. Think upon these gone, let them affright thee. I beseech thee, youth, put not another sin upon my head by urging me to fury. Oh, be gone! By heaven, I love thee better than myself, for I come hither armed against myself. Stay not, be gone, live, and hereafter say, a madman's mercy bid thee run away. I do.
So Paris hears Romeo come in and he recognizes his voice and he's, oh, that's that villain Montague. He's been banished from Verona. He shouldn't be here. And he thinks that Romeo is there to do something bad to the Capulet dead bodies. Obviously, that's not why Romeo is there, but Paris doesn't know that. And so he says to Romeo, stop, obey and come with me, you must die. Because we know that Romeo was going to be put to death if he came back to Verona because he's banished. And so Romeo says, yes, indeed, I must die, and that's why I came here, and I'm a desperate man, so please don't get in my way. He says, I don't want to commit another crime, I don't want to kill you, but I will if I have to. So you need to leave, and if anybody asks, you can say that a crazy person made you leave this tomb.
To defy thy conjuration, and apprehend thee for a felon here.
Wilt thou provoke me? Then have at thee, boy.
Lord, they fight. I will go call the watch.
I am slain. If thou be merciful, open the tomb, lay me with Juliet.
In faith I will. Let me peruse this face. Mercutio's kinsman, noble County Paris. What said my man when my betossed soul did not attend him as we rode? I think he told me Paris should have married Juliet. Said he not so, or did I dream it so? Or am I mad, hearing him talk of Juliet, to think it was so? Oh, give me thy hand, one writ with me in sour misfortune's book. I'll bury thee in a triumphant grave.
So Paris refuses to let Romeo go or let him go into the tomb. And so Romeo says, if you're going to provoke me again, fine, let's fight. And they do. And Romeo ends up killing Paris. And the page hears this and goes to find help. And Paris's last wish is, please lie me in the tomb next to Juliet. And Romeo says, yes, I will. And he looks at Paris's face and he remembers that this is a cousin of Mercutio and a cousin of the prince. And he feels bad that he just killed Paris, but he knows that he is this crazed person and he didn't really have a choice. So he wants to give Romeo a good burial, and then he wants to go in and see Juliet.
A grave. Oh no, a lantern slaughtered youth. For here lies Juliet, and her beauty makes this vault a feasting presence full of light. Death, lie thou there, by a dead man interred. How oft, when men are at the point of death, have they been merry, which their keepers call a lightning before death? Oh, how may I call this a lightning? Oh, my love, my wife, death that hath sucked the honey of thy breath hath had no power yet upon thy beauty. Thou art not conquered. Beauty's ensign yet is crimson in thy lips and in thy cheeks, and death's pale flag is not advanced there. Tybalt, liest thou there in thy bloody sheet? Oh, what more favour can I do to thee than with that hand that cut thy youth in twain, to sunder his that was thine enemy? Forgive me, cousin, Ah, dear Juliet, why art thou yet so fair? Shall I believe that unsubstantial death is amorous, and that the lean abhorred monster keeps thee here in dark to be his paramour? For fear of that I still will stay with thee, and never from this palace of dim night depart again. Here will I remain, with worms that are thy chambermaids. Oh, here will I set up my everlasting rest, and shake the yoke of inauspicious stars from this world-wearied flesh. Eyes, look your last. Arms, take your last embrace. And lips, O you the doors of breath, seal with a righteous kiss a dateless bargain to engrossing death. Come, bitter conduct, come, unsavory guide, thou desperate pilot, now at once run on the dashing rocks thy seasick, weary bark. Here's to my love. Oh, true apothecary, thy drugs are quick. Thus, with a kiss, I die.
So as Romeo goes in to see Juliet one last time, he's looking at her body and he's saying, you know, you've been conquered by love, but your lips are still red, you're still beautiful. And he notes how, like, there's still blush in her cheeks and how she just looks so calm and peaceful. He says, it looks like you're not dead. You don't look dead. And so this is ironic because she's not dead. He's going in and he's paying his last respects and he's saying how beautiful she is. And we know that she is waking up. So the potion is wearing off and she's just about to wake up. And before she does, he takes the poison and he says, "Oh, true apothecary, thy drugs are quick." He kisses Juliet one more time and says, "Thus with a kiss I die." And then he does.
St. Francis be my speed. How oft tonight have my old feet stumbled at graves. Who's there?
Here's one, a friend, and one that knows you well.
Grace be upon you. Tell me, good my friend, what torch is yon that vainly lends his light to grubs and eyeless skulls? As I discern, it burneth in the Capel's monument.
It does so, holy sir. And there's my master, one that you love.
Who is it?
Romeo.
How long hath he been there?
For half an hour.
Go with me to the vault.
I dare not, sir. My master knows not that I am gone hence, and fearfully did menace me with death if I did stay to look on his intents.
Say then, I'll go alone. Fear comes upon me. Oh, much I fear some ill, unthrifty thing.
As I did sleep under this yew tree here, I dread my master in another fort, and that my master slew him.
Look.
So as Romeo was in the tomb, Balthazar didn't leave, but he did fall asleep under the tree. And Friar Lawrence shows up and wakes him up and says, "Hey, who are you? What's going on?" Balthazar explains who he is and says that Romeo is in the tomb. He's been in the tomb for half an hour with Juliet. And Friar Lawrence says, "Okay, come on, let's go check it out." And Balthazar says, "I can't. My master said if I'm still here that he will kill me, and so I'm not going in there." So Friar Lawrence is going to go by himself. And as he's walking away, Balthazar says, "As I slept under this tree, I had a weird dream that my master got into another fight and that he killed him." So he thinks that he dreamt about Romeo killing Paris, although that really did happen. So Friar Lawrence is going to go into the tomb now and see what's going on.
Romeo! Alack, alack. What blood is this which stains the stony entrance of this sepulchre? What mean these masters and gory swords to lie discoloured by this place of peace? Romeo! Oh, pale! Who else? What, Paris too, and steeped in blood? Ah, what an unkind hour is guilty of this lamentable chance. The lady stirs.
As Friar Lawrence goes into the tomb, he sees blood everywhere. It's like, what's happening? Where did this blood come from? And so he sees Romeo's dead body, and then he sees Paris's dead body. And then he sees Juliet, and Juliet is just now starting to wake up.
Oh, comfortable friar, where is my lord? I do remember well where I should be. And there I am. Where is my Romeo?
I hear some noise. Lady, come from that nest of death, contagion, and unnatural sleep. A greater power than we can contradict hath thwarted our intents. Come, come, away. Thy husband in thy bosom there lies dead, and Paris too. Come, I'll dispose of thee among a sisterhood of holy nuns. Stay not to question, for the watch is coming. Come, oh, good Juliet, I dare no longer stay.
So they hear somebody approaching, and Juliet is just waking up. And as she first wakes up, she says, "Where is my husband? Where's Romeo?" And Friar Lawrence hears somebody coming, and he's kind of freaking out. And he says, "Well, your husband is dead, and Paris is dead, and you need to run." And he said, "Come with me. I will place you among the Sisterhood of the Holy Nuns. We need to get out of here." Because Friar Lawrence has dug himself into a pretty deep hole, and he doesn't have a solution for that now. So Friar Lawrence runs away.
Go, get thee hence, for I will not away. What's here? A cup closed in my true love's hand. Poison, I see, hath been his timeless end. Oh, churl, drunk all and left no friendly drop to help me after. I will kiss thy lips. Haply some poison yet doth hang on them to make me die with a restorative. Thy lips are warm.
Lead, boy. Which way?
Yea, noise. Then I'll be brief. Oh, happy dagger, this is thy sheath. There rust, and let me die.
So Juliet kind of gets all of her senses about her, and she sees Romeo's dead body laying beside her. And of course, this is very upsetting to her. And so she realizes, okay, if he's dead, then I need to kill myself too. So she checks the poison, and he has drank it all. She says, "You didn't leave any drops for me." So she says, "I'll kiss your lips and see if that does the trick." And it didn't. So then she finds the dagger that he had brought with him, and she hears somebody coming again. And so she says, "I need to be quick." And she says, "Oh, happy dagger, this is thy sheath. There rust and let me die." And she stabs herself and dies.
This is the place. There where the torch doth burn.
The ground is bloody. Search about the churchyard. Go, some of you. Whoe'er you find, attach.
Pitiful sight. Here lies the county, slain. And Juliet bleeding, warm, and newly dead, who here hath lain this 2 days buried.
Go tell the prince. Run to the Capulets. Raise up the Montagues. Some other search.
So the page and the watchman come in, and they see all these dead bodies. So they see Paris and Romeo, and that's a surprise. But then they see that Juliet is bloody and that her body is warm, like she has just died. So that's a surprise because she was supposed to have died a couple days ago. And how is she like she was just killed? So he says, "Go tell the prince, go tell the Capulets, get up the Montagues, get everybody here. We need to get this figured out."
We see the ground whereon these woes do lie, but the true ground of all these piteous woes we cannot without circumstance descry.
Here's Romeo's man. We found him in the churchyard.
Hold him in safety till the prince come hither.
Here is a friar that trembles, sighs, and weeps. We took this mattock and this spade from him as he was coming from this churchyard side.
A great suspicion. Stay the friar too.
What misadventure is so early up that calls our person from our morning rest?
So the page had gone and detained anybody that he saw. So he found Paris's man, Balthazar, and Friar Lawrence. And so they're going to question them. And they want to know what the heck happened. So the prince shows up, the Capulets and the Montagues, everybody shows up at this time.
Can it be that it so shrieked abroad?
All the people in the street cry Romeo, some Juliet, and some Paris, and all run with open outcry toward our monument.
What fear is this which startles in our ears?
Sovereign, here lies the County Paris slain, and Romeo dead, and Juliet dead before, warm and new killed.
Search, seek, and know how this foul murder comes.
Here is a friar, and slaughtered Romeo's man, with instruments upon them fit to open these dead men's tombs.
Oh, heavens. Oh, wife, look how our daughter bleeds. This dagger hath misstained, for lo, his house is empty on the back of Montague, and it missheathed in my daughter's bosom.
Oh me, this sight of death is as a bell that warns my old age to a sepulchre.
So they're talking about how everybody has died, and Lord Capulet again notices this dagger is now in Juliet, and he mentions that it should be in the Montague's back, but instead it's in Juliet's breast. And Lady Capulet says, yes, the sight of death is like a bell that warns me that I am old and I will die soon too. So she doesn't die, but she's just really shooken up about it. And then comes the Montagues.
Come, Montague, for thou art early up to see thy son and heir more early down.
Alas, my liege, my wife is dead tonight. Grief of my son's exile hath stopped her breath. What further woe conspires against mine age?
Look, and thou shalt see.
Oh, thou untaught, what manners is in this, to press before thy father to a grave?
Seal up the mouth of outrage for a while, till we can clear these ambiguities and know their spring, their head, their true descent. And then will I be general of your woes, and lead you even to death. Meantime forbear, and let mischance be slave to patience. Bring forth the parties of suspicion.
So as Montague comes in, the prince says, come, Montague, your son has died. You need to come look at him. And Montague gives us the news that his wife had actually died as well. So she died of sadness after Romeo's exile. And so Montague is now on his own. And the prince says, okay, let's bring in Friar Lawrence and Balthazar and let's hear their story. Maybe they can tell us what's been going on.
I am the greatest, able to do least, yet most suspected as the time and place that make against me of this direful murder. And here I stand, both to impeach and purge myself condemned and myself excused.
Then say at once what thou dost know in this.
I will be brief, for my short date of breath is not so long as is a tedious tale. Romeo there dead was husband to that Juliet, and she there dead, that Romeo's faithful wife. I married them, and their stolen marriage day was Tybalt's doomsday, whose untimely death banished the new-made bridegroom from this city, for whom, and not for Tybalt, Juliet pined. You, to remove that siege of grief from her, betrothed and would have married her perforce to County Paris. Then comes she to me, and with wild looks bid me devise some mean to rid her from this second marriage, or in my cell there would she kill herself. Then gave I her, so tutored by my art, a sleeping potion, which so took effect as I intended, for it wrought on her the form of death. Meantime I writ to Romeo that he should hither come as this dire night, to help to take her from her borrowed grave, being the time the potion's force should cease. But he which bore my letter, Friar John, was stayed by accident, and yesternight returned my letter back. then all alone at the prefixed hour of her waking came I to take her from her kindred's vault, meaning to keep her closely at my cell till I conveniently could send to Romeo. But when I came, some minute ere the time of her awakening, here untimely lay the noble Paris and true Romeo dead. She wakes, and I entreated her come forth and bear this work of heaven with patience. But then a noise did scare me from the tomb, and she, too desperate, would not go with me, but as it seems did violence on herself. All this I know, and to the marriage her nurse is privy, and if aught in this miscarried by my fault, let my old life be sacrificed some hour before his time unto the rigour of severest law.
We still have known thee for a holy man. Where's Romeo's man? What can he say to this?
I brought my master news of Juliet's death. Then in post he came from Mantua to this same place, to this same monument. This letter he early bid me give his father, and threatened me with death, going in the vault, if I departed not and left him there.
So Friar Lawrence explains the entire situation, how he married Romeo and Juliet, how Romeo killed Tybalt and then was exiled, and how he came up with this plan to pretend that Juliet had died and all that. So he goes through the entire thing, and at the very end he says, the nurse also knew about this, but this tragedy is my fault. And so Friar Lawrence is willing to take the blame, and he even says, let my old life be sacrificed and let me suffer the most severe punishment, because he feels absolutely horrible about what has happened. And Prince Aeschylus says to him, Friar Lawrence, we still have known thee for a holy man, meaning this isn't your fault. We don't blame you. We know that you were just trying to do your best. And so then they ask Balthazar, okay, so what's your side of the story? And Balthazar says, well, I can kind of say that this is all true because I have this letter from Romeo that I was supposed to give to Montague in the morning. And this letter basically explains everything that we need to know as well.
Give me the letter, I will look on it. Where is the county's page that raised the watch?
My lord?
Sirrah, what made your master in this place?
He came with flowers to strew his lady's grave, and bid me stand aloof, and so I did. Anon comes one with light to ope the tomb, and by my master drew on him, and then I ran away to call the watch.
This letter doth make good the friar's words, their course of love, the tidings of her death. And here he writes that he did buy a poison of a poor apothecary, and therewithal came to this vault to die, and lie with Juliet. Where be these enemies? Capulet, Montague. See what a scourge is laid upon your hate, that heaven finds means to kill your joys with love. And I, for winking at your discords too, have lost a brace of kinsmen. All are punished.
So the prince reads the letter, and it says everything that Romeo needed to tell his father, that he had fallen in love with Juliet, that they got married, that he bought this poison from the apothecary in Mantua, and kind of confirms that, yes, what Friar Lawrence was saying is true. And so then Prince Aeschylus says to Capulet and Montague, do you see what great evil resulted from your hate? So this is the fault of your guys' feud. And he then also shares the blame because he says, I looked the other way when your feud flared up. I didn't actually do anything about it. And I have now lost members of my family as well, because Mercutio and Paris were both his cousins. And so he says all are punished. Everyone has been affected by this horrible feud.
Oh, brother Montague, give me thy hand. This is my daughter's jointure. For no more can I demand.
But I can give thee more. For I will raise her statue in pure gold, that whilst Verona by that name is known, there shall no figure at such rate be set as that of true and faithful Juliet.
As rich shall Romeo's by his lady's lie, poor sacrifices of our enmity.
So the play ends with the Capulets and the Montagues deciding to erect statues of one another's children. So this will be a reminder of them to stop the fighting and to bring peace to Verona, and hopefully that will help the fighting end in the future. So the play ends with Prince Aeschylus's final piece of advice.
A glooming peace this morning with it brings. The sun for sorrow will not show his head. Go hence to have more talk of these sad things. Some shall be pardoned and some punished. For never was a story of more woe than this of Juliet and her Romeo.
So the prince ends by saying, basically, we settle a dark peace this morning. The sun is too sad to show itself. Let's go talk about these sad things some more. Some of us will be pardoned and some will be punished, but we'll get to that later, he says. And then finally at the end, there was never a story more full of pain and more woe than this of Juliet and her Romeo. And that is the end of Romeo and Juliet.